What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? Jade Farrar for the Jade Farrar Show, and it's great to be back, guys. Listen, before we get started, if you haven't subscribed already, it's a really good idea. Just by clicking that subscribe button and clicking that bell icon, you become part of the notification squad. And at the end of the video, you'll see details of my second channel, Random Stuff. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's an opportunity for you to hear all sorts of random thoughts and happenings that are going on in my life at this very moment. But today, I just wanted to spend a bit of time doing something I've never done before, actually, which is a bit of a story time video. And what I want to talk about is something that I haven't actually revealed to the public, and it's the journey of my diabetes. So my diabetes journey started, fill in the blank, in May of 2017. Was it?
I was going to say early March.
So my diabetes journey started in March of 2017. It started because I was just feeling so rough all of the time, and I thought, is it lack of sleep? Is it my diet? Is it something I'm doing in terms of my patterns that's making me feel this way? So I would just go to work and I would, I would try to battle it out. I remember one team meeting in particular, we just started. It was like 20 minutes into the meeting and we'd barely got the pleasantries out of the way, and I remember basically falling asleep, and I was just like, geez man, this ain't cool. And I left it for about a week more, and I remember on whatever day it was that I ended up going to the doctor, I was just like, something is wrong with me, I feel like I'm dying. And, in terms of how I was feeling at the time, I could only describe it as being like foggy and feeling like there was some kind of like weight on top of me and I could barely move, and it was like being underwater, but it's really, really hard to describe. Anyway, so I go to the doctor, and I'm describing what I'm going through, so sorry for the amount of details, but I'm peeing more than usual, I'm feeling really tired, and I'm just falling asleep in the middle of the day. These are all sorts of things that shouldn't really be happening. And the doctor said, I hate to say this, but it sounds like you might be experiencing diabetes. And it's really important for us to sort of determine which type there is, because there's type 1, which is an autoimmune disease, and there's type 2, which is more related to the resistance to insulin. So we're not going to know straight off the bat which type you've got, but we're going to start you on the baseline medication, which is metformin. So that was all fine and all good, and I get the medication, and what I should say actually is that I had my first reading in the doctor's office, and I'm not really good at needles, so the prospect that I was going to have to be constantly pricking myself was a little bit of a big deal. I don't know if you know, a lot of people with cerebral palsy, but us and needles don't really mix. Anyway, I get my first prick. It takes way longer than it should have, probably about 10 minutes. And it comes out at a 17.5. So the average for people is anywhere between 4 and 8. And that stands for parts per million of glucose in your blood. That's how we register it in New Zealand. So anywhere between 4 and 8 is pretty normal. Mine was sitting at 17.5. So at this point, I'm clearly diabetic, feeling really gutted. The doctor basically tells me that this is going to be a lifelong journey. I'm probably going to be on medication forever. And, you know, once you become diabetic, there's not really much you can do about it. And you often deteriorate over time in terms of your reliance on medication and healthcare and things like that. Something within me, though, sort of thought, well, stuff that. This is only because of my lifestyle. And you know, just to be really clear, you know, when I was in high school, I used to go through probably 3 600ml bottles of Coke every day. And when I got to university, you know, my eating habits weren't great either. And I gained quite a bit of weight over that period of time. So I have no question about how I ended up with diabetes, but just something within me sort of refused to be beaten by it. So I come home and the first thing I do is start Googling everything there is to know about diabetes. And I focused on type 2 because I sincerely believed it was more to do with my diet than anything else. But if it turned out that it was type 1, the autoimmune version of it, I was kind of ready for that too. So anyway, a couple of weeks go by and my blood has gone away for those various tests that I needed to have done, and turns out I have type 2. And no disrespect to any type 1s out there, but I was so relieved in a certain kind of way because I knew that there was an influence that I could have in terms of my diet and my lifestyle to make my health a lot better. And, you know, please don't take anything I'm about to say as legitimate medical advice. But upon reading up and upon watching hundreds of different YouTube clips, it became apparent that blood sugars and the management of blood sugars is really closely related to the amount of carbs that you eat. Now, for a lot of people, they would be like, well, you know, what else is there to eat? And, you know, carbs for a long time for people have been used as a real filler where there should be actually, you know, decent food like protein and vegetables. We sort of fill the gap in our hunger with like bread and potatoes and things like that. So, long story short, you know, I started a journey to cutting out as many carbs as humanly feasible, which meant that I no longer ate rice, I no longer ate potatoes, I no longer ate bread or anything that had a flour base, really. Muffins, scones, all that stuff was essentially kaput. So over time, you know, 6 months go by and I go and have my HbA1c test done, which is a blood test that registers your blood sugar levels over a period of time, and you can't fake this one. It's taken by a lab and they do all sorts of things. My HbA1c comes back normal. And my doctor, you know, they asked me, you know, how'd you do this? And I basically said, you know, I cut out all the carbs that I was eating. It was a ruthless, difficult, complex journey in terms of having self-control. But, you know, the impacts of cutting out carbs, you know, I got my blood sugars back to normal levels. I dropped a whole ton of weight, and that's the bit that I haven't talked about yet. So at the start of my journey, I was approaching sort of 96 kilograms, and even to this day, actually, I'm sitting around 83, 82 sort of kilos. So I lost all that weight. Very minimal exercise involved. I have been a lot more active since a couple of surgeries I had on my hip and my ankle, but really it's been down to cutting out carbs that I did that. So at that same meeting I was having, so I may not have explained it well. So when I say I went back to the doctor, I actually went to the specialist. They didn't know what to make of it because they've never seen a guy recover their HbA1c like that. The same day, I go to the nutritionalist, and he takes one look at my file and he says, I don't think there's anything I can do for you, because we're often encouraging people to eat better and do right, and we're often having to educate around the right thing to do, but you've completely resolved your HbA1c. I was a little taken back by that conversation, because you expect a nutritionalist to have lots of things to say about diet and different creative things to do. I don't know if that's a misconception on my part, but turns out there was nothing he could say. Another 6 months go by. I get another HbA1c done. This time, I go back to the specialist. It's a different specialist. And she says, hey, look, man, we're in a position that we're thinking about discharging you from the diabetes department. And I'm just thinking, what in the heck? So I guess the moral of the video, what I'm trying to do here today, guys, is just in terms of health and well-being, my diabetes journey has been a real roller coaster, and I don't know, it seems pretty random to be talking about this. It's been on my mind for a while to even sort of share that I have diabetes, because I'm not sure how many people know unless they're in my immediate circle. Being that I beat it, you'd think that I'd be able to say that I don't have diabetes anymore, and I know that my mum likes to be able to say that, but the fact is that, there's been certain damage done to particularly my pancreas, and I'm always going to have to be extremely careful about how I do and how I do business and how I conduct myself in terms of my diet and the things I put into my body. So the moral of this video is not to say that I've beaten diabetes and I can just go back to eating what I want. Definitely not. So I've chosen to be a low carb guy. I've chosen to be paleo as the best thing for me. It makes me feel the best. I'm going to continue to do this, but I just really wanted to share what the past sort of year has been like. I've had a lot of stuff going on too, with transformation and everything I'm doing in the policy space. But over the top of that was some serious concern for my overall health and well-being. And for those people that have been there through the journey and been by my side through it all, particularly Hannah, I really appreciate all the energy and support. But to be able to say that I've come out the other side, and my vitals and my everything chemically is good again, is just amazing. Anyway, guys, first story time video I've ever done. Thank you for listening. As I said at the beginning of the video, I would really encourage you to please subscribe to the Jade Farrar Show. I think it's a good idea. I post up a variety of content all the time, and also I have a second channel now, Random Stuff, which is about me sharing all sorts of random thoughts and ideas that I'm having at any given time. I think it's worth it. I'll leave a link somewhere around here where you can subscribe to that stuff. Where am I looking? yeah, somewhere around here that you can click on and subscribe to those channels. But anyway, guys, it's good to be back here. Thank you for being a part of the channel. Thank you for being a part of the journey. And we'll see you in the next one.